Hey everyone, Bible Nerd here. This week I want to focus on the events of Holy Week. So each day certain events happened that led up to Jesus's crucifixion and eventually his resurrection. So each day has a certain theme and certain things that happen leading up to these events. This is celebrated by Christians now for 1600 plus years. Even before that, there's some record of these things being celebrated. So I want to read those passages with you and help you kind of walk through the events of Holy Week. So today is Palm Sunday. The reason why it's called Palm Sunday is as Jesus is entering into Jerusalem, people take off their clothes and put down these palm tree branches as the horse, the colt he's riding on, rides into Jerusalem. It's kind of like rolling out the red carpet. It was done to celebrate kings and princes and things that were coming into cities would have these little celebrations. And what I find it's pretty interesting, a lot of times during Jesus's ministry, he downplays things or says, hey, don't tell anybody about these things yet. It's not my time. Certain events have to happen first. So there's a lot of kind of playing it down. This is one of the first times where there's kind of more of a coronation. There's more of a sense that he's entering in as the king, and people recognize that. So the story of him, or Palm Sunday, is in all four of the Gospels. They have little differences that are between them. Like in the chapters within Luke, you won't see some emphasis on some of the messianic imagery as much in Luke as you will see in the other accounts. So today, let's go to, we're going to go to Matthew. So we are going to go to Matthew chapter 21, and let's read that account. Starting in the first verse of chapter 21. Now, when they drew near Jerusalem and came to Bethpage at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent two disciples, saying to them, go into the village opposite you, and immediately you will find a donkey tied and a colt with her. Loose them and bring them to me. And if anyone says anything to you, you shall say, the Lord has need of them, and immediately he will send them. All this was done that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the prophet, saying, tell the daughter of Zion, behold, your king is coming to you, lowly and sitting on a donkey, a colt and a foal of a donkey. So this reference here is in Zechariah. You don't see that in Luke. You just see that in the two other Gospels, again, to really emphasize. So you have to remember with Luke, his audience, who he's writing the letter to, is a Gentile, where Mark and Matthew is more likely written to Messianic Jews. So they're going to understand some of these references, and they're going to have these aha moments. They're like, oh, that's fulfilling that prophecy. That is what we've been taught will be something we should look for when the Messiah comes. So it's a great emphasis back to Zechariah in that phrasing. Next in verse 6, so the disciples went and did as Jesus commanded them. They brought the donkey and the colt, laid their clothes on them, and set him on them. And a very great multitude spread their clothes on the road. Others cut down branches from the trees and spread them on the road. Then the multitudes went before, and those who followed, crying out, saying, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest. So this is referencing a psalm, Psalm 118, as they're kind of praise and worshiping as he's coming through. And again, this is really a culmination of Messiah type imagery that is throughout Psalms, then in Zechariah, even in Isaiah, as he's walking into Jerusalem. It's really this triumphant king. There's a story where Solomon is put onto a donkey. His father is King David. Solomon's put on a donkey as a way to be able to show meekness or humbleness, to be able to say, okay, you are supposed to be a servant of the people. And that was kind of one of those other things they were supposed to do. And it just is played out through their story all the way up to the point of Jesus. So it's just fulfilling these prophecies. And so much more of what was happening, they didn't realize it as much until they had a chance to look back. And you see that reference throughout a lot of the Gospels, is they didn't know it going through it. And I think we run across that in our whole lives. There's stories and things that we'll do that we didn't really know until we have a chance to digest, look back at it. I think there's a lot of times I've been on these vacations. I've been on these these journeys, I've been on these trials that I don't know what I'm going through until it's kind of over. You don't know the rain's over until you see the sunny sky, or you don't really get all of the trip you're on, the vacation or whatever, until you look back and kind of start to be able to remember, to think of the memory of it sometimes is even more vivid than what you're actually going through. So you'll see that referenced here as well. So going on to the 10th verse, and when he had come into Jerusalem, all the city was moved, saying, "Who is this?" So the multitude said, "This is Jesus, the prophet of Nazareth of Galilee." So the accounts are a little bit different. I like some of the emphasis here. Let's go to Mark's account. So that was Matthew. That was Matthew 21 through verse 1 through 11. So now let's go to Mark's gospel. And let's see. So let's read this account in Mark. It's very similar, but I like some of the little nuances with it. Now they drew near Jerusalem to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives. So these cities are just outside of Jerusalem. They're about maybe 2 miles or so from Jerusalem. And it seems like that's where they may have been staying as they went kind of back and forth into Jerusalem. So they'd return to Bethany, and that's where they would stay, and then go into Jerusalem throughout the whole week. And so there'll be these events that will play out. So let's keep reading here. Then he sent 2 of his disciples and said to them, "Go into the village opposite you, and as soon as you have entered it, you will find a colt tied on which no one has sat. Loose it and bring it." That's a really interesting phrase right there. It's actually also mentioned in John, is that the colt has not been sat on yet. Now, I've read some commentaries on that were pretty interesting. That usually means that the horse would probably be a little bit more feisty and rowdy. If you've ever dealt with horses, there's some breaking in, there's some training, there's some stuff that you do. So this horse has never been sat on. It's going to be a little spooky. It's going to jump. It's going to do other things. So there's a lot of commentary out there. The idea of that is that his coming presence is so calming that even the colt was celebrating in his own way, or the fact that he has even control over the colt, so to speak. So that's an interesting phrase that's added in there. And it just shows his calming presence on that situation. Continuing to read here, it says, "Loose it and bring it. And if anyone says to you, 'Why are you doing this?' say, 'The Lord has need of it,' and immediately he will send it here." Now, continuing in the 4th verse. "So they went along their way and found the colt tied by the door outside of the street, and they loosened it. But some of those who stood there said to them, 'What are you doing loosening the colt?'" Again, this colt hasn't been sat on, so it might be a little feisty. It might not be as trained. It might be a little more spooked, and it definitely won't like anything on its back or a saddle or clothes or anything kind of on it. That will definitely be something it hasn't been trained yet for. So they could easily say, "Hey, why are you loosening the colt? What are you doing with that?" Going on to the 6th verse. "And they spoke to them just as Jesus had commanded. So they let them go. Then they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their clothes on it, and he sat on it. And many spread their clothes on the road, and others cut down leafy branches from the trees and spread them on the road. Then those who went before and those who followed cried out, saying, 'Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the kingdom of our father David that comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest.' And Jesus went into Jerusalem and into the temple. So when he looked around at all things, as the hour was late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. So it's this enter into Jerusalem. It's this coronation of a king finally coming there. And I can't help but think of the times that Jesus maybe downplays or just postpones kind of the celebration of who he is and what he is. This is one of those times where there isn't he knows what's coming. He knows this is the start of this. He knows that he's coming in as the king of the world. So I love these passages. This one is Mark 11 through verse 11. So both Matthew and Mark are 11 verses that describe the story. But you can find this story in all 4 of the Gospels. So this is the start of Holy Week. This is kind of that start of Jesus' coronation as king as he enters into Jerusalem. So tomorrow, we're going to talk about what happened on Monday. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Hope you found this useful. Love you to be a part of this journey. Let's continue on and see what happens for the rest of the week. God bless.